Welcome, everyone. My name is April Smith. I'm the Education Coordinator at NAFA. Welcome to the Sustainable Fleet Technology webinar series. Before I turn things over to our moderator for today's session, just a few housekeeping notes to review. This session is being recorded, and a copy of that recording will be available to you in the coming days. All participants are muted during the presentation to limit background noise, but we do encourage you to ask questions and add comments using the chat and Q&A features. You can find these on the Zoom toolbar. If you experience any technical difficulties, please reach out to the NAFA team through the chat feature. And now to kick things off, it's my pleasure to turn things over to Shelley Parker.
Thank you, April. Again, everyone, thanks for joining us today for the Sustainable Fleet Technology webinar series. Our topic today, hopefully you already know, is first responder fleet efficiency and vehicle options, and we have some great presenters here. If you're not familiar with the SFT webinar series, we have 10 to 12 sessions per year. These informative sessions include industry experts who analyze frequent challenges, demonstrate areas of potential operational and environmental improvement, and they showcase strategies and technologies fleets are implementing to drive their sustainability goals. So this is reality in action from the experts. It is not me sharing the information with you. We just recruit the content experts. So very glad to have everyone here today, and thank you for your time. We do have recordings of previous sessions online, and you can find those at sustainablefleetexpo.com/webinar series. And I will put that link and others in the chat as we move throughout the session today. Recordings for programs like free technical assistance and tools was in July. We skipped August because of the Sustainable Fleet Technology Conference. June, we covered greener options for refuse trucks, and May was focused on government agencies with at-home charging policies. So if you're interested in any of those, I hope you will look at the recordings. April already introduced herself, and I am Shelley Parker with the Clean Energy Technology Center. And if you're not familiar with the Clean Energy Technology Center, we work collaboratively with government agencies, industry leaders, and academic institutions and nonprofit organizations to promote the adoption and implementation of clean energy. Through its diverse programs and services, the center empowers businesses, communities, and individuals to pursue clean energy strategies that foster economic growth, reduce reliance on foreign energy sources, and mitigate the environmental impacts of fossil fuels. Our clean transportation team is fuel agnostic. We're just looking to get something out there that is cleaner or technology that reduces fuel use, and that helps everyone in the long run. We are partially grant funded in our work, and sponsors help us continue our education and fuel and technology work. eVerged is a charging and fleet EV partner that provides integrated solutions for private organizations as well as government entities with assistance, including financial assistance. If it's something that you're interested in learning more about, you can visit everged.com. Also, a special thanks to eVerged for also serving as a sponsor of the Sustainable Fleet Technology Conference at Expo that we just held a couple of weeks ago in Winston-Salem. Some new programming that we've recently launched is developing online on-demand training series for architects, planners, and construction professionals. The series focuses on EV charging infrastructure and covers the topics of siting, working with utilities, navigating permitting, and accessibility related to EV supply equipment. It includes 4 one-hour courses that can be taken individually or as a complete package. It includes American Institute of Architect continuing education credits for all 4 courses, and the permitting course includes American Planning Association education credits. You can learn more at the website listed there, and I will put my email address into the chat later towards the end. I'm currently planning additional courses, so please let me know if you have ideas for concepts. Basically, what I'm looking for is what are your pain points, things that have made you grumble in the past, your frustrations with architects or planners or facilities, and let that guide me in recruiting content experts in order to move your electrification projects forward. And you can drop ideas in chat, you can send them to me directly, and I will be following those throughout the session as well. I mentioned the Sustainable Fleet Technology Conference a couple of times, and we just had that with 3 days of programming in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And we had speakers from across the US, education on all alternative fuels and technologies and all vehicle types of duty cycles. You can see some of the coverage from our ride and drive here, as well as the Expo Hall floor and the Southeast Propane Alliance and Propane Education Research Council's networking lounge. NAFA's Green Fleet Awards are presented at the SFT conference, and you'll be able to find a future SFT webinar about lessons learned from those winners. We also host 12 breakout sessions across 3 tracks. This year, they were planning, policy, and funding, another track on advanced vehicle technologies, and the third track was medium and heavy duty vehicles and infrastructure. We have the breakout discussions over breakfast across multiple topics and moderators to facilitate those discussions between the early birds who maybe want to talk a little bit more and those of us who require a little bit more coffee to get going. And we had great keynote speakers throughout the conference, including Boris Court-Packard, FedEx's engineer of global vehicles, where he was facilitating progress to carbon neutral operations by 2040 for FedEx. So early bird rates start as low as $249 to make the conference affordable for all fleet sizes. So I hope you'll join us next year. That is why that we need the sponsorships and exhibitors in our expo hall to make that an affordable rate for everyone. You can also stay engaged with future webinars, get more information about the conference and other opportunities by signing up for the Clean Tech Center's transportation newsletter. And I will drop that link into chat as well. And with that, here's more of what you actually came for today. So we have a great lineup of speakers from various backgrounds and parts of the country. Bob Martinez, will give us a broad overview of experiences with the NYPD and hone in on more specific information. Ian Walsh from Memphis, Tennessee will tell us more about their technology that's greatly impacted the emissions there. And Jen Brown from Flagstaff, Arizona will focus on her experiences with a city fleet and the preventive maintenance specific to first responders. I'll provide an intro for each of the speakers before their presentations, so you don't have to try to remember between now and then. And you can hold all questions for Q&A and a larger discussion at the end. But if you're afraid that you're forgetting it, go ahead and post that in Q&A throughout or in chat. I'll monitor those, collect them along the way. And I will also post links to a couple of PDF resources that our speakers refer to. So I hope you are able to stick around with us to the end. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and provide the introduction for Robert Martinez. So Bob is our retired deputy commissioner who started working on motorcycles in 1972 for New York Motorcycle, and then he went out on his own for a motorcycle shop before joining New York City's police department as an auto service worker or helper mechanic, as he referred to it. And he rose through the ranks. Along the way, he continued his education, obtaining multiple degrees, including a Bachelor of Technology degree from New York City Technical College, where he majored in electromechanical engineering. He earned a Master's of Science degree in Executive Management from the Robert F. Wagner Graduate School of Public Service at New York University. And thanks to the Police Foundation, he was able to attend the Harvard Kennedy School of Government program for senior executives in the state and local government. He's also a very proud grandfather, with the most recent addition to the family joining in late August, which is why he could not join us at the Sustainable Fleet Technology Conference. So Bob, I really appreciate you joining us here to share your expertise. With that, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was the best introduction I think I've ever got. So appreciate that. Beautiful job. Thank you so much. And this is just a little bit in print of what Shelley just mentioned. And that's a picture of me about a year ago in the central repair shop of the NYPD, which sometimes they still let me come by and visit, you know. Next. So why go green? You know, and I call it the trifecta. what really motivated me to go green wasn't really to reduce emissions. That was just a byproduct. It was really my thing. I wanted to reduce maintenance costs and reduce the amount of preventive maintenance that we had. When you have 10,000 vehicles or 7,000 on the road vehicles, and you do a 4,000-mile preventive maintenance, that's a lot of vehicles to come in, on a monthly basis or bi-monthly basis. So I decided in 2008 to get involved with buy some hybrid cars to reduce the amount of oil changes and the amount of PMs I had to do. So, but I call it the trifecta because I ended up reducing fuel costs and reducing fuel usage, saving approximately $1 million a month. And then we reduce maintenance costs because a lot of the byproduct of an electric vehicle, hybrid vehicle, with regenerative braking, extended PM periods, really reduce the cost. And electric vehicles, there's very little maintenance other than an increase sometimes in tire wear. And then the trifecta was to reduce downtime because even when a vehicle comes in for preventive maintenance, there's a certain amount of time when that vehicle's out of service, not available to patrol and do what it needs to do. With a fleet as big as the NYPD, where we hot seat vehicles 24/7. Next. So when you first start talking electric vehicles, uh, a lot of, especially on the police side, we have the fear factor. So the fear factor is, vehicles will run out of charge when they're chasing bad guys. I don't know how many times I heard this. Replacement batteries are very expensive. We need level 3 charging. Police equipment will use up the battery power. EVs go on fire all the time. Police accessories not available, are slow, cost too much, vehicle maintenance too expensive, or not pursuit rated, or not safe. So I'm going to go down this list. And so as far as running out of charge when chasing the bad guys, the same thing happens with an ICE vehicle. If you don't have your fuel tank filled up, or you went out on patrol and didn't top off, and you get into a chase or a situation towards the end of your tour, you can run out of fuel just like you run out of battery. It's just a little bit of pre-planning. And basically, I tell most people, think of it, if you are into boating at all, we use the 1/3. And with a boat with fuel, you use 1/3 to get to where you want to go, 1/3 to get back, maximum 1/3, and then 1/3 reserve. You should probably apply that same 1/3, 1/3 when you're talking about charging up your battery and going on patrol. Replacement batteries, I get 4,000 plus hybrid vehicles in the NYPD, 148 fully electric Mustang Mach-E's, and we've had Priuses for 20 something years. We've had very few bad batteries, and the batteries are under warranty. Battery, in most cases, are under warranty for 8 years, 100,000, 150,000 miles, depending on the brand. Batteries are not a problem. Um, and then even the batteries are fully recyclable. So on the other side, a lot of people are concerned about the hazmat of the batteries. A lot of these batteries are turning into be backup power for houses with solar panel. You need level 3 charging. All depends on your duty cycle. If the vehicle sits for 6 or 8 hours in a 24-hour period, you more than likely don't need level 3 charging. Level 2 charging, even level 1 charging, if the vehicle sits for 10 or 12 hours, is adequate. But in most cases, level 2 will serve the mission. Police equipment will use up the power. There's actually more power available in an electric vehicle to keep your computer and other things running than what's in a very ICE internal combustion engine vehicle, an ICE vehicle, as we call it. EVs, when they do go on fire, they make the front page, but there's very few go on fire. So probably ICE vehicles, there's probably 10 or 15 go on fire throughout the country every day, and you don't read about. But when an electric vehicle goes on fire, they do take a lot more to put them out. There are some issues with the internal fires, with the energy within the battery being fully depleted, but they really don't go on fire all the time. They do once in a while, and that's a precaution you need to take when you're setting up your charging stations and where you're going to park them. Accessories available. Companies like the Satina company, they make cages, they make push bumpers. These companies that make accessories for police vehicles, they will make whatever you need because they want your business. So it's really not a problem getting police accessories for EVs. slow and cost too much. One thing for sure, EVs are not slow. They have much more torque, instant power. They will probably beat any ICE vehicle out there. And now even with the hybrids, Ford Motor Company now just leveled the price. So the price of a hybrid Ford Explorer and a regular Ford Explorer is the exact same price. And in many cases, there's additional money, grant money to offset the additional cost if there is any. But total cost of ownership is usually much lower because you have no maintenance, you have oil changes, your uptime um, so vehicle and maintenance is expensive. Once again, the big parts that are expensive that might break are going to be under warranty for 8 years. If your department's keeping the vehicle in service for more than 8 years, you have bigger problems than worrying about an electric vehicle. Finally, some vehicles are coming out pursuit rated. Right now, the Chevy Blazer PPV is the first pursuit rated EV, and I project that next year to be a few more. And the Ford Hybrid Utility or Explorer, that's pursuit rated as well. And all these hybrid and EVs that are available today or and that are pursuit rated all have pretty much 5-star crash rating across the board. So there's nothing to worry. They're just as safe as the other vehicles. In some cases, people feel they're safer. They have a lower center of gravity. They weigh a little more. There are some other instances because the vehicle weighs more, as far as highways and stuff being equipped to handle a hit from like a guardrail of a heavy vehicle. But that's something that we need to work on in the future across the board with all vehicles. Next. So where do I start? So you need to review your fleet, do analysis on your duty cycles. Once again, looking at that downtime, which I call dwell time. Dwell time is when the vehicle's not in use. Like I say, most of the time vehicles are parked somewhere for 6 to 8 hours in a 24-hour period. If you're hot seating, then you need fast charges. What vehicles are in use 24/7 and what take-home vehicles are a great use case. Most people, you can charge at home. There's great data available in both the vehicle and the charging to reimburse people if they are charging at home. So charging at home, take-home vehicles is really a ground ball for electric vehicles. What is the range needed? Once again, that comes back to your analysis. In the NYPD, we have some commands that are 1 mile square and we have some that are 20 miles square. So depending on how the vehicle's being used, and for highway patrol, like Staten Island, if they're doing a lot of mileage every tour, the electric vehicle might not meet the needs or fully electric, but the hybrid certainly would. How many in highway use and local patrol? The electric vehicles today are available that meet the fleet's mission and are safe, so they are. It's just a matter of you identifying which vehicles meet the mission. So the two things we never want to give up when we're going green is the vehicle that you choose and want to use must meet the mission and must be safe. Those are paramount. And then if we can go green with electric vehicle, hybrid vehicle, then that's perfectly okay. What vehicles are coming available in law enforcement in the next few years? I have some photos further on that we'll go through. Right now, there's not a lot fully electric pursuit rated, and there's only one hybrid, but more are coming on. But we also have special duty vehicles. So in the law enforcement realm, we have PPV, and then we have special duty where we have more latitude with the special duty, where the vehicle might meet the mission but might not be pursuit rated. Or next. This is the Ford Explorer. Once again, they're not slow, they're not fast, 318 horse. I think the Crown Vic had 220 horse. So this vehicle um, reduces idle time. Every hour of idle is equal to 33 miles of wear and tear on your engine. So hybrid vehicles reduces idle down to less than 20%. And it has 100 horsepower than the 100 more horsepower than the old Crown Vic. Next. Tesla, this is another interesting vehicle. We had one of these in NYPD. It worked out well. It doesn't meet everybody's need, but some departments are switching to Teslas. Next. The Bolt, which I think they're on pause and being manufactured right now, but they are coming back, I believe, in 2026. We have a few hundred of these for our traffic agents, and the biggest problem was that they were too fast. When the traffic agent would give it a little gas, sometimes they'll burn rubber because the wheels would spin because of the high torque. But outside of that, the vehicles are quiet. There's no fumes. People really like driving them, and they really meet the needs for like a traffic situation or a ticket writer. Next. The Lightning, quite a few departments are going to this. In New York City, we're getting a lot of executives now that are giving up their SUVs and switching to Lightnings. This is a great application for anywhere that you're going to be where a pickup truck would suffice. Um, just really a nice vehicle. I drive a hybrid Ford F-150 myself, and I love that truck too. Next. This is a picture. We bought a 148 Mustang Mach-E's, fully marked. When I test a vehicle, whether hybrid or electric, I always like to give it the worst case scenario, fully marked, lights, sirens, the whole 9 yards, computer. This is one of the first ones we got in 22. We bought 148, 108 of them were marked, 40 of them unmarked, and they really work out quite well. The only additional thing that I find with hybrids and fully electric vehicles is it increases tire wear. Tire wear does go up a combination from the additional weight of the vehicle and regenerative braking. Next. And then this is the new Chevy Blazer. You know, it's pursuit rated. I think the numbers actually got a little better. That this information might be a little bit old, but 197-mile range, 130 top speed, which they could probably make it 160, but they limit it to 100 top 130. 400 horsepower, all-wheel drive. Talk about slow torque, 530, foot-pounds of torque. This is really an incredible vehicle for first responders and police use. The only issue I have with this is I think it's a little bit on the small side. Once you put a cage in there, you have to kind of use a plastic seat in the back so that you can get a prisoner in there that's more than 5.5 foot tall. And then the back part of the vehicle is limited with the amount of storage. There are some pretty nice options to get as much storage as you can out of it. I would have loved to have seen a bigger vehicle as being their first pursuit rated vehicle, but there's certain departments that this will definitely suffice and fit the bill for meeting the mission of a first responder in the police world. Next. So after identifying what electric and hybrid vehicles might meet your needs, now you need to start identifying, what your charging needs will be needed. This can be very costly if you don't do it right. You must do this early because there's a limited amount of what I call juice. When I say juice, I mean the electric power on the grid. Everybody's shooting for it. Everything's going electric. In New York State, all new big high rises can only be heated with electricity. And they're limiting the amount of new gas hookups. They want you to cook with electric. So they want you to cook with electric. They want you to heat with electric. They want you to cool with electric. And now we have electric vehicles. So the demand for electricity is really increasing across the United States, actually throughout the world. So if you are thinking that you need level 3 charging, your first step would be get in contact with your utility, try to identify how much juice you think you need, and start that permit process because that might be longer than actually getting the charging station installed. Cost can range from $500 for a 220 setup to $30K for a slow fast charger. So a 50-watt killer DC fast charger, in my opinion, is a slow fast charger. Most DC fast chargers, they're 440 to 480 volts, and our true fast charger is 350 kilowatts. So you're going to need anywhere from 250 to 300 amps going in there, and that's where the big problem comes in because amps is like water. You need a bigger pipe, so you need dredging, you need transformers. DC fast chargers will need the transformer, additional wire, possibly underground. So that's where the real money comes in on getting these chargers up and going. Level 2 charging usually would be most effective and cost effective. Take-home vehicles might need to install at the office's house. And once again, it's very easy to determine and figure out how much electricity is being needed to charge that vehicle for reimbursement. I love microgrids and bidirectional chargers. You could think of your fully electric vehicle as being a backup power for your command. You lose, in certain areas with the hurricanes and different things going on with the storms nowadays, that if a storm does hit, you can actually plug your vehicle in with a bidirectional charger and power up your police station or your system. But if you have microgrids, you can even do more with that. And then once you start dredging and do all that, if you're leasing a property, the owner might not let you do this, so you need to find out who owns the property. If it's county owned and government owned, you're probably okay. But if it's leased, they might not want you to put these big charges in. There is funding and grants, even though some are drying up this month and many are drying up at the end of the year. But now there's about up to just about 20 states that looks like the governors of those states are going to get state funding to compensate for the loss of the federal funding. And then fire department approval. That's a big thing. You know, they're really shy on getting or approving putting charging stations and even parking electric vehicles in underground parking or in multi-level parking lots. Next. So how much juice do you need? Level 1 would be 120, 15 amps on average. Level 2 would be 240, 40 amps, 50 amps. This is a good option for many departments, depending on dwell time, most cost effective. Level 3, 440 volts, 100 to 300 amps, supercharge, which is great if you can do it. If you're hot seating, level 3 is really necessary, but level 1 and 2 in most cases, or at least level 2, which probably suffice. The level 3, 440 to 130 respectively, with major effects on charge time. Level 1 and 2, the actual charger is on the vehicle. The wall charger only supplies the alternating current electricity you need for the vehicle. So if you have 100 or 98 kilowatt charge battery, like in the Ford Mustang, and you have a, let's say, 10 amp charger, it'll take 10 hours to charge that vehicle, because it's simple math. So in most cases, I think they're coming out with 15 kilowatt charger, and the charger will charge the vehicle, but it'll be slowed down and charge at the rate of the charger that's on the vehicle. Where level 3 will fast charge for 80% of the charge time and then slow down to a slower rate for the last 20% because it does battery conditioning. Next. Thank you. And if there's any questions, put them in the chat and we'll cover them at the end of the other presentations.
Bob, before we move on, I did want to ask you a moment about the Eco Patrol PDF and your work on that, because I am going to put that into chat as well.
Which vehicle on the
Oh, just the general guidebook for the Eco Patrol.
Oh yeah, so I was able to I did a joint venture last summer with the New Jersey Clean Cities Coalition, and collectively we put together a 16-page quick reference on it's called Equal Patrol, and it's designed to help police chiefs and administrators from around the country if they want to go down that. It's a quick reference guide on how to do it and some of the things to look out for, and similar to some of the information in this presentation.
All right, and I have put that in chat for anyone that would like to download it. And with that, we're going to move on to our next speaker. Thank you, Bob. Ian Walsh, thanks for joining us today. Ian is the Memphis Fire Department's EMS fleet manager. He has 29 years of experience in fire and EMS and 24 years with the Memphis Fire Department. For the past 6 years, he's overseen the design, specifications, and inspection of their EMS fleet to ensure peak safety and performance for the equipment and personnel who use it daily. Ian's role also includes training staff and implementing cutting-edge technology and equipment. He's committed to driving innovation and excellence in fleet operations, enabling Memphis's EMS teams to provide the highest standard of emergency medical care. So thank you for joining us, Ian. I know that you said titles aren't important for y'all, but if you would like to provide that as a little bit of your intro, we can launch from there.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I think you've covered, like you did with Mr. Martinez, best intro I've ever gotten. So Yes, I'm over the EMS fleet for the Memphis Fire Department. We are a fire-based emergency medical service model. So we do fire truck, fire and EMS here. And the crews will ride half the day on the ambulance and half the day on the fire trucks in a 24-hour period. So we run a little bit harder and longer on our equipment because Bob had said, hot seating, we're going constantly. Our vehicles don't have time to sit and charge for lots of hours. So we've had to go to like a hybrid model with the larger vehicles. Plus, we have yet to find a fully electric mid-size or larger chassis. We have 56 fire stations, 76 heavy apparatus, 36 ambulances, and multiple light SUVs that we respond anywhere from our prevention using Ford Fusions to Tahoes to F-150s. We've recently started going to for some of our field chiefs. Where we have started most of our hybrid models is using APUs in our ambulances, auxiliary power units. We just say hybrid all the time because we don't get regenerative braking or anything like that. It's just easier terminology for everybody here, but it's primarily using an APU. Of those 36 ambulances, we do about 390 EMS incidents on a day. We actually respond to more than that, but of actual true incidents, not disregards or anything, is 390. We cover about a 324 square mile here in the Memphis area. There are some more cities in the Shelby County, but most of it's all the city of Memphis. We respond to the runs, and then we have a lot of staging time. Like if there's fire scenes, the ambulances will sit on fire scenes at the hospitals. Anybody in the EMS hospital services will understand how long it's gotten with offloading your patients at hospitals. So we have to sit there and wait, and it truly helps us a lot in those situations to have the auxiliary power units or hybrid APUs. Everybody has their preferred term as slang, but we've seen a tremendous difference in fuel savings and being on scene. It's a lot quieter. You don't have the loud engines running constantly and having to yell at each other and things like that. Next. So here's just some quick data as far as runs for 2024 to see how many we're responding to. We have, it'll also show here in just a second, how many, just a little over half of our fleet of ambulances is a hybrid now, has the APUs. So we've done just on the EMS side, 287,000 runs in 2024, with 142,000, almost 143 incidents. That's a lot, from what I'm being told. Comparative, I've been in here my whole life as far as EMS and fire, and so this has always just been, this is how we run. But compare that to a lot of other cities, this is a lot of run volume. And when our total mitigation hours, so half of the time of our equipment running, our ambulances running, is in mitigation mode, which means the engine is shut off, but the entire unit's running. So during idle, the engine is no longer idling, saving us fuel, wear and tear. Over 50% of the time is our units are in mitigation mode. So you're saving that much. Next. So here's a quick look up top and what this APU is. As you see, we use 0 RPM. There are multiple brands and companies out there that do it for large equipment like this. This one happens to be the best for what we use it for, or how we wanted to set our ambulances and up with. We're actually looking at putting some on our fire equipment, our pumpers and our trucks as well. So you've got a battery bank that holds the lithium ion batteries with your CPU and your voltage controllers and a compressor. Then they wired into the vehicle's OEM electrical system, so it all talks to each other. We have it set so once you set it into park, it does a countdown for 120 seconds, 2 minutes, and that allows it to not just shut off immediately. Kind of gives it a minute to, for the best term, catch its breath. It'll do a countdown, and at that mark, the engine shuts off, but everything stays on, lights, on the outside, inside. We can run everything we need, suction units. We're charging batteries for our monitors. We're charging suction devices. Everything's charging, everything's running. No issues there. And what it does is it'll also monitor cranking batteries. So you have your regular lead acid batteries, and it monitors that as well. So that way, if it gets to a certain percentage, it says, hey, we need to kick back on, let our alternator start charging us back up. Same way with the system. If it's sitting there, it gets down to a certain percentage. It says, hey, we're getting low enough. We need to kick back on, start charging ourselves up. Next, please. All right, so from our very first unit to one of the most recent times we pulled the last data, so right at the 5-year mark, we have saved over 160,000 in just fuel alone. That calculation is done by the average of fuel at the time, you know, the national average. So we don't put in a special rate, which we could do. Like if we got a different rate than the national average, whether it's higher or lower, that's what that cost savings based on. How many gallons of fuel has been saved? This started originally as 1 unit for about 1 year. So this is a 5-year total. So we started with 1 unit. Then about 1.5 years later is when we started getting in the rest of, we started getting all the rest of them in after that. So that was COVID time. Of course, we ordered 11 more ambulances, and we got a few in at a time, obviously. So the number started jumping and changing as we got more in. At this point right now, this was done on a 14, we have 14 on this system. We have 2 other trucks that are using a different hybrid company. We tried another company to see how that was working. So that's where our number to 16 is. Next, please. So at the bottom, it says 16 assets to date, which, like I said, we have 2 other ambulances that have systems by another company that we were trying out. But the data I just showed you is for the 14 trucks over the last 5 years where we're saving. I haven't even gotten to the other 2's data back yet because they're still new to us and getting that data information. This is all taken from Intellimetrics that is given to us, we have access to on all of our trucks. Every truck we have we can pull up information about everyone. There's so many different options with Intellimetrics where you can pull up daily how much they've saved, as you see here under CO, CO2, nitrogen. I mean, it breaks it down to numbers that, I'm sorry, I just don't even understand some of these, but they will give you the every item you want to know, how much fuel, how much idle, how much in heating mode, in AC mode. The systems will run your air conditioners while your vehicle is off because it has its own compressors. And that was a big thing for us because we have very hot and humid summers here in Memphis. I know it's not like in Arizona or Texas or things like that, but it's a totally different beast here for some reason. People don't believe it until they come and visit. So we can turn off the engine and still run air conditioners because the system has their own compressors in there and they're run off an electric motor that keeps the same ACs running. There's no transitional cutout or anything like that from power or the AC or even the heat. The only time you'll see a difference is if it, again, power gets low, it'll crank back up. Or in the winters, if it gets too cold, it goes by the same coolant. If it gets under a certain temperature, whatever we have set, it'll kick back on to rewarm the fluid. At the bottom here, you can kind of see if you take some of these numbers and plug them in to the, I just lost the website name, but you can plug them in and it breaks down the EPA website. Thank you. You can put in your numbers, how much you're saving, and it'll break it down to if you want to see how many tree seedlings for the last 10 years you're saving, or how many acres of forests in 1 year you're saving from your idle mitigation and reduction of hybrids. You can put that in to help give you some more numbers. Next, please. So here's some quick other things. Preventive maintenance. So for every one preventive maintenance without the APUs, or every 3, we do one. Because you're not sitting there idling. As Mr. Bob said earlier, for 1 hour of idle is equivalent to about 33 miles. So there's just less wear and tear. So we watch the mileage and we also watch engine hours. So that way, if we hit a certain, whichever one we're hitting first, we're going to do a PM on. But by doing that, we're not running down the road as much, or let me take that back. We're still running down the road, but we're not sitting there idling as much. So there's a lot less wear and tear on the engine components and the from idling. We're out of service less for PMs. We don't use as much fuel. That was one of the biggest things crews were telling me when they first were getting these, and this was new to them. They're like, we can go a whole 12-hour shift and not have to top off the fuel. We can actually make it all day. Not saying that we would run out of fuel. It's just we have certain levels we have to top them off. So they can go a whole 12 to 24-hour shift and never hit that half a tank or quarter of a tank, depending on where they're located, and not even have to fuel up. Noise reduction for situational awareness on scenes. You're not hearing a loud engine while you're sitting there trying to listen to your patient's breathing in the back in your stethoscope. It can allow you to do a little bit better patient assessments. It's less stress on yourself and on the equipment. And obvious emissions reductions. We're not blowing heavy diesel fumes constantly. It's sitting there idling, filling up places, especially in hospital areas like their ambulance bays and things like that. Next. Right now, we currently have the 16 I mentioned. We have 4 more being delivered this month, and I've got 2 more coming by the end of the month. And we've already ordered 5 more, and everything is being built is going to have an APU in it. We also just received word that we can go ahead and we're getting 2 fire trucks that we're going to put this system on as well. This system will not run, let's say, the pump or anything like that. So I know a lot of people will be like, wait, you're running this off a battery to pump water at a fire, you're trying to put my house out. If this isn't doing that, but we make so many EMS runs or all the other fire trucks that sit on the scene while they're sitting there idling, we can shut down that big engine and run all the electrical and air conditioner or heat off the APU. Next. That pretty much covers everything from a general standpoint on the EMS and fire side of things on that I see.
All right. Thank you, Ian. Yes, I 100% agree with you. Jen may have a different opinion, but down here we go, yeah, but it's a dry heat when you go and visit other parts of the country. That humidity will get us every time. One of the resources that I am about to put in chat, I came across the Memphis Fire Department's EMS and this programming based on a white paper that was done by Tennessee Clean Fuels. And if you're interested in seeing that case study, that link is now in chat. And with that, we'll go ahead and transition over to Jennifer Brown, MSL. She's a seasoned professional with a distinguished career in public service. I had the opportunity to see her present earlier this year at GFX. Over the course of 26 plus years, she's dedicated her expertise to the law enforcement sector, contributing significantly to the operational efficiency of the police department. Her commitment to excellence and her adeptness in information technology led her to transition to the sheriff's office, where she played a pivotal role in enhancing the technological infrastructure of communications for a year. In pursuit of new changes and challenges for career growth, Jennifer subsequently embraced a role in Public Works Fleet Services, where she assumed the position of a shop supervisor. Her leadership skills and passion for positive change became evident as she effectively managed the day-to-day operations, ensuring the optimal function of the fleet services. She's recently been promoted to the prestigious role of Facilities and Fleet Section Director at the City of Flagstaff. In this elevated position, she oversees and directs strategic initiatives to maintain and improve the city's facilities and fleet operations. Her commitment to promoting career growth, fostering leadership, and implementing positive changes continues to be a driving force in her professional journey and how she works with others. I hope that you will help me in welcoming Jen Brown.
Hey everyone. Well, I will agree with Bob and Ian that was probably one of the nicest things that has ever said to me and about me. So it's good stuff, right? So I've been learning a lot. I always learn a lot from listening to Bob and what he's doing in New York. We obviously have a smaller police department. But these classes and training sessions are always important because there's something that you're going to always be able to take out of it, right? Whether it be, oh, I never knew that was happening. So I'll just go ahead and start out by just letting you know that being a fleet manager, sometimes it feels like being a part-time firefighter. Except instead of working with hoses, we're armed with spreadsheets, wrenches, and instead of saving buildings, we're saving brake pads, or at least trying to save brake pads, especially when it comes to law enforcement. A lot of my friendly officers like to really press down on those brakes, and lo and behold, they will not last what the manufacturer says they will actually last. So let's be honest, most of us spend time putting out emergencies than preventing them. And my biggest goal here is try to not enforce, but heavily rely on people to actually bring in their vehicles to the shop to have an actual preventative maintenance completed on their vehicle. And what I mean by that is not just an oil change. Like, let's look at the health of that vehicle. Let's look at it from front to end to top to bottom. And let's try to prevent anything from going bad while they're out on the road. So the importance of preventative maintenance is I want to make sure that we maximize the vehicle lifespan. We ensure officer safety, and then we improve fleet reliability, reduce and maintain our public trust, because the last thing I want to do is have a vehicle get involved in a collision, that officer's driving, and that officer or somebody else gets injured, and it's due to faulty maintenance. That's one of my biggest concerns, is that I don't ever want to put our fleet in that position. So one way of preventing that is basically doing preventive maintenance and enforcing them to bring their vehicles in, because I'm sure at Q&A we can talk about it, but one question I like to always ask the audience is, what's the longest lead time that you've ever had a vehicle go back in for a PM? And when I started working at the shop, I thought, of course, everything was 5,000 miles. Let's put everything 5,000 miles. Well, this one vehicle didn't come in for 15,000 miles after that last service. And I was just dumbfounded. And at that time, it was like, yeah, that's kind of just how it is, because the county that I worked for is the second largest county. So we have vehicles in different cities and different areas, and it wasn't easy for them to be able to bring it in. But there's always solutions, right? So we ended up working with Arizona Department of Transportation, that was in Page, Arizona, and said, hey, can you do the service on these vehicles, and we will pay your fee. That's just another way for bringing convenience to the users. So it's not, PMs aren't about paperwork, it's about the backbone of the fleet, reliability and safety. Next page. So now we talk to you about the fun parts of the unique demands of the police vehicles. Police units aren't normal cars. Most of the time with our agency, with the city of Flagstaff, we run those vehicles 24/7. So those are called hot cars. We just don't have enough vehicles or funding to be able to provide the sheriff's department. They provide them their own assigned vehicle. So it makes it a little bit better. But when you have hot cars, those cars are constantly running. Sometimes they're running 24 hours just because of how the shift works. So you notice that these vehicles are constant idling. Even though the city of Flagstaff has an idling policy where we really try to not have people idle their vehicles, sometimes it's just not practical. Sometimes it's too hot, sometimes it's really cold. So it may be a dry heat up here, but also in the wintertime, it is really, really cold. So that's why they're going to be idling their vehicles. But one of the other things is I want to make sure that those vehicles are going to be able to be relied upon for a quick response. And we also need to understand that there's going to be a heavy use, and that these officers are going to push the limit on the vehicles. I mean, they're going to push it until it breaks down. So our goal is to eliminate any types of breakdowns. Next page. So the core components of a PM is to ensure that they do have regular oil changes, that they do transmission inspections, brake system checks, tire rotations and replacements. Especially tires, you always want to make sure that we are reviewing it. So sometimes in our shop, we'll say, well, 1 or 2 out of the tires are bad. When it comes to a police department or a police vehicle, I always recommend just change all 4, right? Use the other 2 that are good, use those as a spare for just in case. But best practice for me in our shop is that we just change all 4 and get them new shoes. Battery load testing, and then fluid top-offs. And then we are moving some of our admin to electric vehicles. So our police chief actually drives a Ford Lightning. We also have police aides that drive Ford Lightning, and then we have some administrators that drive them. Those still need PMs as well. I drive an electric vehicle. I drive a Chevy Silverado for work, and it was really fun to bring in the vehicle for a PM and take it, because I think this was the first one that they ever really did. And I sat down with the mechanic. I said, well, what are you going to do? And he's like, well, I don't think that there's much to do. I'm like, yes, there is still much to do. You still have to look at all of the components. You still have to top off the washer fluid, the tires. It's recommended to rotate all the tires, take a look around the vehicle, see what's missing, check the lights. There's stuff that I would recommend that you go and see what the manufacturer specs are for a PM on electric vehicles. Yes, it is quite a bit different, but still needs to be done on a regular basis. And for us, we're still keeping it at the 5,000. So next page. Specialized checks for police vehicles. As you can tell, we don't just deal with small vehicles such as the Ford, our vehicles, our police department uses the Ford PIUs, but we also have bomb trucks. We also have other specialty vehicles. We need to make sure that those are still getting in for service. So this unit right here, our SWAT team, um, this one, our mechanics can definitely work on, but we need to make sure that we are checking everything in that vehicle because it's not used regularly, right? We need to make sure that there's consistency. We do monthly checks on them. We do annual inspections on these. But we need to make sure that we're working together closely with the fire or with the police department to make sure that we're getting in these vehicles to see them. Next page. So scheduled maintenance intervals. So we make sure that we do monthly visual inspections. So the police department also hires a property control coordinator. So we work really closely with them, and we sit down and let them know what we want. The police officers are also every beginning of their shift, they're required to do visual inspections. So check the battery, check the tire. Obviously, checking the battery, the officers are just going to make sure if it turns on and they're good to go, right? But then the property control coordinator, what he's going to do is he's going to do checks on mileage and checks on hours. And then if he notices something, if it's before the scheduled time, he'll schedule it in with the shop so we can take a look at it in advance. So our goal here is to try to reduce the amount of breakdowns that happen on the actual road. And it's funny, I keep looking at this picture of this mechanic, and as I'm looking at it, it looks in real time. So it looks like he's actually looking at me. So I keep looking at him, but that's just a little funny, haha. And then annually, we do also comprehensive safety inspection. And then when we're getting ready to replace vehicles, we do another inspection to make sure that we're not putting too much money into the vehicle. Is it time to be replaced? Is it on its last leg? Do we need to really consider, do we keep the vehicle, or is it time to put it in for a replacement status? Next page. So best practices for fleet maintenance management. Proactive maintenance saves money, reduces downtime, and protects our people in the field. So what we like to do is implement a centralized maintenance tracking system. A funny thing is when I came back to the city of Flagstaff, when I worked at the police department, I was in charge of only the police vehicles. So I had my own system, and then I would bring it over to the shop to have them fix. Well, then when I came back as being in charge of all of the equipment in the fleet, I realized that they didn't have a fleet software management system, and I was blown away. We had a vehicle that got involved in an accident, in a collision, and the officer was making a left-hand turn. I actually ended up being there 3 minutes after the collision happened and checked on the officer. He said, I'm fine. And he's like, I was only going 5 miles an hour. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think you were going 5 miles an hour. I think you were going faster than that. Obviously made sure he was okay. And later on in the day, he ended up saying that he thought that there was a mechanical failure in the vehicle. And that's when I was like, wait, time out. Let's take a look. So I go and I talk to our fleet manager and I said, hey, I want to get ahead of this. I want to see all the maintenance records of this. So he brings me to the back of the shop. And I kid you not, it is like the Dewey Decimal System. So we were on cards, and the cards were like just a little card that I don't know, 4x6. And it was written in circles of all the maintenance that was done. And I'm like, whoa, this is not okay. So I am happy to say that we are working on getting a fleet management software system. Hopefully by January, we will actually be back into the new age of fleet practices. But it's really important to make sure that we have a system that you can track these vehicles and make sure that we've got their idling time. A lot of people use telematics. It's a great tool. It's very expensive. And then we also want to make sure that we train the officers to report issues promptly, whether that be with the property control coordinator or they contact the fleet. The longer an issue goes, the bigger the problem is going to be. I also like to use OEM parts. And then again, keep detailed services histories. Next page. So the benefits of a strong preventative maintenance program is it saves money, reduces downtime, and protects our people in the field. So if any of you work with police officers, and I may be saying that I'm being really hard on the police officers. I'm married to a retired police officer, and my son is just starting the training process. He just graduated the police academy, so I have a little bit of it. But really, honestly, we need to make sure that we're training those officers and letting them know that you have to tell us, because if their vehicle is down, they're going to be constantly harassing either the fleet service rider or the mechanic saying, when's my vehicle going to be ready? When's my vehicle going to be ready? Because they have a job to do. So next page. All right, so from reactive to proactive, we want to make sure that we're stop chasing the breakdowns and start planning smarter. So this shift changes everything, right? Because if you can and you don't have a PM program, I would strongly suggest that you implement one. Typically, it results in a 30% reduction in repair cost. And then you can also extend that average vehicle by 2 years, and then improve emergency response by 12%. So emergency response times are really important to the police chief, the fire chief. It doesn't matter. It's going to be really embarrassing if you have one of your officers or firefighters going to a call and that vehicle breaks down, and it could have been prevented. So that's our goal, is we don't want those vehicles to be breaking down while they're on the road servicing. Next page. All right. So the conclusion and call to action is our policy was built by peers across the department. So we actually did just recently, I'm getting ready to go to council to talk about our policy, and what of it includes preventive maintenance and making sure that we're committed to creating a structured program, and that we're working with all the users, not just the police department, but all of the vehicles, the users that we serve. So our goal is to create a smarter fleet process. We want to make sure that we're prioritizing EVs wherever possible. And then we also have a goal with our sustainability group. It's called the EV First policy. So when we're doing any replacement vehicles, we need to look and see if it can be an EV first. If it's not EV, then it moves to a plug-in hybrid, and then an ICE vehicle. This is important because there is a carbon neutrality plan goal by 2034 to have at least 80% of our vehicles somewhat fully electric or hybrid. For the police department, obviously this isn't going to work, but what we can do, and then listening to Bob, I'm like, oh, maybe there is a way, right? So what we are doing right now is getting all of our administrators into fully electric vehicles or plug-in hybrids. So the plug-in hybrids have been really great tool to kind of meet this goal. And then one of our other biggest things is my goal is to make sure that we're protecting our fleet, our officers, and our community, because if we don't have a fleet, we have angry officers. And then if our officers don't have a very good, solid working vehicle, they can't help protect our community. And that's kind of been my whole talking point, is that we're all here to work with each other, but we need to take care of our equipment. And with that, I guess the biggest thing I can say is less firefighting, more foresight. Preventive maintenance keeps our fleets on the road, our budgets in check, and our first responders where they belong. And that's servicing our community, not waiting on a tow truck, which is really embarrassing on our end. And I really appreciate all your time for today.
Thank you, Jen. I really appreciate that overview and going into detail on preventive maintenance. We are now going to move into discussion. I have not seen Q&A come in unless, oh, we had 3 come in at the very end there. So I will say, guys, I took a peek. I know that we've got some sustainability officers in our attendance today, as well as the leader of first responders. I'm not sure who else is there. I'm going to kick us off with one quick question before we move into the Q&A, which is, can you share a little bit more about the introduction and training with new vehicles or technology, and if there's been any kind of myth busting or aha moments that have worked in your favor, or maybe won over some other skeptics without you having to do the work?
I guess I'll start. Re I, in reality, one of my goals when introducing a hybrid vehicle, any other type of different vehicle fully, is that it has to operate exactly the same as the current vehicle. Internal combustion engine vehicle is what we're really getting away from. And I have a quick story is that when we first transitioned to the Nissan Altimas back in 2008, the mayor's office went down to Times Square to, interview a couple cops that were driving hybrid vehicles for about 2 or 3 months at the time. And, so they asked them how they liked the hybrid. And the way they answered it back, which was music to my ears, was, um, what's a hybrid? They didn't even know they were in a hybrid, So a first responder's job is to be a first responder and to enforce the law or protect people or save people's lives. It's not to save fuel. So what we do in the fleet world is, as we transition, we have to make it seamless so that the first responder can do their job and not even realize that there's any difference in the way the vehicle operates.
Jen, Ian, anything from y'all?
Yeah, especially with the police department, they are very stubborn in their ways, and the one thing that they don't like is change. But then the things that they do want to do is they want change, So it's really hard to present them an idea that electric vehicles will work in their future. One of the things is to have the chief drive in a vehicle, right? And then what we also do is we have electric vehicle parties. And we have all the vehicles that we have in our parking lot, and we let people come and drive them. I also work in collaboration with the chief, saying, "Hey, can you bring some of your guys out here, gals, and come and take a look and let them drive these vehicles?" And then they are floored away by the performance of the vehicle. So we just need to help give them a little bit more education and not make them so afraid that they're going to run out of juice on these vehicles. So really, it's just about providing some education and try to get that fear factor taken away from them. So it's working out pretty well. Plus, it's fun. They get to go fast and realize that it's actually a really nice vehicle.
Yeah, I'll agree with that as far as that's an awesome idea of having the other vehicles there for them to see and try. As far as our vehicles, since we don't have all electric on the fire trucks and ambulances, it is pretty neat though to be able to turn them on, let everybody just kind of come out and see them, and they're like, "But it's turned off," and they're like, "No, it's running. The engine's off, but the entire thing is working." And it just blows their mind when they can come in and turn everything on and everything works the way it should, like it would. And then we're sitting there having a conversation. And they're like, we can actually hear each other too. So that has made a huge difference on people, and it is slowly but surely starting to turn heads. And education is huge, getting people to understand what it is, how it works. And on the other side of it too is the mechanics, how to work on them, how to figure out, oh, it's not doing this, it should be doing that. Let's figure this out. Let's troubleshoot it. and training on their end to be able to work on them and not feel afraid or not go, like Jen said, they hate new things, but they always want something to change. You know, and we offer change, but then they don't want to learn new things. So it's an education thing for sure.
Excellent. We do something similar to what Jen was talking about through the center. We call it Clean Vehicle Demonstration Days. It's open to only to government agencies and to utilities. And again, we're fuel agnostic as long as it's cleaner. And so that does include APUs and that sort of technology as well. And we've hosted those out at the Highway State Patrol training facilities. We've hosted them at drag strips and some other places. And again, that does really help bring people out. If we can get it sponsored, have some food there, that type of thing. And we'll get people from across the state to come. And hopefully, you know, it's the actual fleet managers, fleet users that are there talking about how the experience has been within their fleet and showing that it's really worked. So got a couple of questions that have come in. I am going to put these in. Jen, I think this one may be for you, but definitely anyone can chime in. Referring to the maintenance, what is the cost difference for OEM parts that you're using for the vehicles versus, you know, going with a different part brand?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the vehicle. So like if you're running a Chevy Silverado and you're using the OEM, I mean, some like brake pads could be totally different, but it's going to be anywhere between 10 to 30% more expensive. But you're going to be making on some things, like some things we won't do OEM, but when it comes to those major categories, so like your brake, your shocks, those are the things that we are going to stick with OEM. And it's so anywhere between 10 to 30%. But, you know, obviously I'm not going to go out and buy OEM windshield blades. That doesn't matter, right? Because it doesn't really have that big of an impact on how the vehicle operates. But brake pads, those are going to be always something that I'm always going to do OEM. Sometimes I do use, Bob turned me on to another company. So it's always about Bob. But yeah, so typically I will do that. I will spend the extra money because I'm finding that I'm going to have either a better warranty on it as well. And they're going to back up. They will back up the product.
Anybody else want to chime in? Okay. Jen, again, I think this one may be for you. How far along are you in your EV goals?
So we have about 18 vehicles in our fleet of 850. So it has been a little bit more of a struggle. I don't think that we're going to hit the total of the 80%. I just don't really think that, for one, we don't really have the funding for it. Like Robert said, that we just purchased a F-150 Lightning, and I was thinking it was going to be at the $80,000 rate, and we actually got a brand new one for $56,000, which is a huge savings, right? Like we're going to be able to start purchasing more of the EVs there. But also another one of my struggles is making sure that we have the proper infrastructure, that we are putting those chargers in the right locations. So we have about 36 chargers for both just the city of Flagstaff employee usage, and then also some chargers that we allow the community to use as well. I think that where I see our direction going is in the plug-in hybrids, because it serves both purposes, right? And it kind of reduces that scare tactic that if they're going to be traveling to Phoenix or Tucson, they're not going to get stuck. They're not going to have that charging fear that, oh my gosh, they can still use the plug-in charger while they're in town, but if they find that they don't have it, they can still use that ICE option. So yeah, still kind of a work in progress, but we're moving there slowly, but it's a good goal to try to achieve.
This is one that the three of us had in discussion, but I think it's relevant as a follow-up question there. Talking about the pricing, in North Carolina, governments can purchase off the North Carolina Sheriff's Association contract there at their negotiated rates. Some organizations may be going through and putting out their own RFPs. So if you can talk a little bit more, Bob, I think you mentioned some items about what was available across the U.S. in governments.
Yeah, so as far as New York City, they like to usually get their own what we call requirement contract, which is usually a 2-year contract with a 3rd-year option. But outside of big purchases, in New York State, we have a thing called the marketplace. So the state is setting up like an internal state cooperative. So those are, 2 options. And then when we speak of cooperatives, we have Selwell. Um, let me say that.
Well, no, Salesforce. I'm still getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Sourcewell. There we go.
Sourcewell, thank you. Yeah, well, we have Northwell hospitals. I keep getting Northwell mixed up with Sourcewell. So Sourcewell is really the state of Minnesota setting up state contracts. So the beautiful thing in the United States is that any government, as long as it has permission from the originating government that wrote the contract, to use another government's contract. So that started these what they call cooperatives. So Sourcewell is the state of Minnesota's system, which they outsource to a 3rd party. The state of Texas has one. And then you have GSA, which is the federal government, which you can, any government can use, can piggyback on a government contract. So there's a lot of other stuff. And then when you get into parts things, there's big national part houses like Napa Auto Parts and stuff like that, that they have systems for you hire them on, and then any of your auto parts or anything you want to buy, you can buy through this overlapping auto parts contract, and then you could even get it where they have their person behind the counter. So there's a lot of options of purchasing stuff that lessens the amount of work on your initial procurement team. Because if you're doing everything that you want your own separate contract, you have to, write a spec, go out to bid, have a pre-bid, have a bid. There's a lot of work involved. So there's a lot of different avenues to be able to purchase vehicles.
Excellent. Ian, were you going to add something?
No, I just agreeing with a lot of that. We have, I believe Tennessee also has a Sourcewell or something like that. We have state contracts we can run off of. And as far as looking, and one thing we happen to have here at our department is somebody does this grants, and he's a grant writer, and there are plenty out there if you just look, state, federal grants. That's how we were able to get a lot of the stuff we were able to get. And VW was a huge one that has purchased a lot of the equipment for us. We also got a fully electric box truck off the VW grant, and we have a type 2 charger, and we were looking at using that to do electric plug-in hybrids for some of our ambulances. We had agreements with the local hospitals to put in charger stations at the ambulance base for our ambulances and things like that. It hadn't come to fruition yet, just because of trying to find companies and everybody to make it work, like we had talked about on specs before, and finding the spot to put the extra stuff on top of what we already would do. So there's plenty out there to look at for grants and things like that as well.
Yeah, and another thing to look at is there's companies like Omnia, OMINIA partners, which they lease, so you don't always have to buy stuff. So if you don't have the capital budget, there's funding out there, and they'll work with the grant company as well, with the grants, and can apply the grant money to leasing. So there's a lot of leasing operations or money available that way to offset the initial capital investment.
Excellent. All right, got one more question here. Do you charge your emergency EV vehicles to 100% capacity all of the time? I've read about negative effects this causes the battery over time. I do feel like our emergency response vehicles would need 100% of that battery capacity to do their job, so maximum range.
So I'll take some of that as, so we have set all of our electric vehicles to be at 80%. Because we too heard that if you max it out at 100, it kind of degrades that battery over time. However, there are special situations where, like, if we're going to be traveling, throw it up to 100% and let it charge to 100%. But as far as our law enforcement officers, again, it comes back to educating them and letting them know the reason why we only want it at 80 or 85%, and not really to get to that 100%. Again, it's educating them and then also providing them with statistics of, okay, typically this is how long this 80 or 85% charge is going to last your vehicle for your shift. But again, right now we're not quite ready to introduce all electric to police officers, but at least getting the chief and some administrators driving it kind of eases them into it.
Anybody else want to add on?
Yeah, well, that just goes back to the one third, one third, you need to be conscious of the battery usage and how you're using it. I mean, all that information is readily available in these vehicles. So, and they give you a warning sign when you get low, but as far as charging the battery and going down 100%, that's all about battery conditioning, and basically the vehicle won't let you do it because they want to warranty these batteries for, 150,000 miles, 8 years. And then that really plays a major role by not running the battery down to zero and not, charging the fast charging. You can charge it to 100%. You just can't fast charge it to 100%. So, and even the difference from the Silverado to the Lightning, there's already a increase in battery range. And the way GM is doing, you can actually order a vehicle with different ranges, because they actually build the battery pack custom to the vehicle to some extent. So, it's just like anything else. You wouldn't run your car on, down to zero tank either, right? So.
All right. Feel free to continue to put questions in Q&A. Jen, one of the things that you talked about there was plug-in hybrids and that they're getting popular. So depending on, the mechanic or service member that I hear speaking or the fleet manager, some of them say plug-in hybrids sound great, but in reality, they don't get plugged in and people only run on the ICE portion of the vehicle. So do you find that to be the case, or are y'all monitoring or doing training or policies to make sure that the PH portion of the EV is actually used?
Yeah, that's kind of difficult, right? So we have 5 plug-in hybrids in our fleet now, and 2 of those are our motor pool vehicles. So those motor pool vehicles stay in fleet. So when they're not being used, they're being plugged. So it serves a couple of things, right? We're actually using it for its intended purpose. And then when somebody does come and pick up that vehicle to rent or borrow, they are seeing that that vehicle is plugged in. When it's their first time using this vehicle, we make sure that one of our service writers basically goes around and talks to them about the vehicle and says, this is how you charge it. This is for the plug-in part. This is for the gas. Obviously, hopefully common sense goes in there that you would know which one is which. And that we heavily suggest that we recommend them using the plug-in. And so if it's a plug-in hybrid that is assigned to a certain department, we go through a training and say, this is what we recommend. Obviously, I'm not going to hold them to it. I just kind of have to hope that they are using it. And honestly, it's going to save them, because right now we're not charging departments for electricity rates. So they're going to be saving a lot of money, and their fuel budget will be used for other stuff. So if they were smart and thinking about it, they would want to go to the electric because they're not getting charged for that fee right now. So.
Yeah. There's just one thing to understand is that even if you don't plug it in, It just reverts back to being used as a hybrid car. So it's not like it's a fully ICE vehicle. It's not like you only run it on the engine. It's just that you get the best combination when you plug it in because now you're 100% battery for the first 25 or 30 miles. But then when the battery gets low, it just goes to a hybrid mode. It doesn't go into a full gas mode.
Excellent. And Jason Sykes put some of his experience in chat as well. I'm not sure of the organization he's with, but he said that they have 300 plug-in hybrid electric vehicles and found that if the units are not plugged in, it actually costs more to run the vehicle, which makes sense. That's the reason why we talk about full EVs to begin with as an option. Let's see. I guess one of the other questions that I had, Ian, if you already answered this in your presentation, my apologies while I was monitoring chat and other things. For your fully electric van, is that charged on site? Is it through city infrastructure that was built specifically for y'all, or is it elsewhere?
So it sits where, right next to our headquarters where, it's hard to explain, like we call hydrant repair. So, it sits on site at our area where we keep some of our fire fleet, as far as like the admin area and all that. It sits on site. We have a charger. That whole area was just recently redone when they built our new headquarters. So it stays there, has its own plug. Honestly, they don't use it daily. They use it as needed. Because like I said, it's a small box truck or cargo van, basically a Ford Transit size, and they use it as needed to deliver stuff, supplies and things like that. We also at the same location have a hydrant repair truck that we put on the same system we have on our ambulances, and it operates a crane to pull the plugs out of the ground. And it runs the chassis and all that, and it gives electric to the crane. So when they drive it during the day, and they've come by here a few times, and they love how the fact that it can sit there and go into idle, keep the cab nice and cold on these hot 110 days. And they're out there pulling a plug out with the crane and can get in, and it's still cold, and they push their foot on the brake, it starts running, they drive to the next one and go from there. So we have those in the same area, and that plugs in and charges when they're like gone for the night. And it's using an APU again because of the size, but yeah, so charging and sitting down, it just works off a regular 20 amp plug that we can run a extension cord out to, and charges off of that.
Well, guys, thank you very much for sharing your expertise today. Excuse me. We will have the recording posted in the next couple of days. Also, a quick reminder again, if you are doing electrification or have installed electric vehicle infrastructure at your workplace and you wish that there were things that architects and planners knew, please email it to me. I really appreciate it. Additionally, we have more coming up October 2nd, so just a couple of weeks, medium and heavy duty vehicle electrification. Those are a fully electric e-Cascadia and a box truck that were at the SFT conference, electric UTVs and the battery powered options to have on board. There are some rescue vehicles that fit into that. Great solutions for on campus solutions, for, well, it's football season. So there's various reasons why you may need UTVs and need access to college campuses, but also a ton of other locations where it's a really great use case. for replacing vehicles as you're trying to get cleaner and meet your goals. And then November 13th, lowering carbon emissions with alternative fuels. And we've got a couple of propane, and that semi truck is actually able to run on 100% biodiesel as well. So I hope you will join those for us. As we close out here, you will see a link for the survey. I hope you will take it. We do use your recommendations and your feedback there. So Jen, Ian, Bob, could not have done this without you. Thank you for your time in preparation and for bringing your expertise to the table, and for everyone that stuck around to the end. Thank you so much, and thank you for submitting your questions and feedback in chat.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks everybody for being here, and thank you to our presenters. Really great topic. I really enjoyed it. I hope everybody has a great rest of their day.
Thank you.
Thanks, April.